Welcome to Healing Whole, the podcast. I'm your host, Callie. I'm a health and wellness expert, a certified personal trainer, and holistic health coach. I also happen to be extremely passionate about holistic healing. With over 13 years of experience, I've worked with clients from all walks of life. I also know a healing and holistic lifestyle can be a little overwhelming. I'm here to break it down for you and take you on my journey to healing whole. Remember, the materials and content within this podcast are intended as general information only and are not to be considered a substitute for medical advice or treatment. Hello, and welcome to episode 8 of Healing Whole, the podcast. I am here with Rebecca Skeele. That's S-K-E-E-L-E. She is a wisdom teacher, a spiritual mentor, and author of 2 books, and has been in private practice for 35 years. So welcome, Rebecca. How are you today?
I'm really good. Thank you, Kelly. I'm glad we got together.
Yes, I know. I'm excited to see everything that you have to talk about and learn from your wisdom.
I'm looking forward to being with you as well.
Yeah, cool. So the first question I always ask, besides how are you, is how did you get into this holistic healing way of living?
Well, let's see. I was born. No, I'm teasing.
Yeah, no, true though.
Really. Yeah. Well, like everyone else, when I was in my 30s, I was going through a huge upheaval in my life. Lots of what I call 2x4s. The things that come out of the blue and whack you upside the head and your life is in pieces on the floor. And I really started, and I was living a very, very opulent, abundant lifestyle, wealthy lifestyle, that most people would look at that lifestyle and go, oh my God, you were living the dream. I was living the dream. And things started falling apart. And so one of my big revelations was, oh, this isn't it. So I started looking around at, okay, well, what is it? And I happened to find a really wonderful program that was a master's degree at the time in spiritual science and spiritual psychology. And I began to heal myself. I began to reveal who I truly was to myself. The loving of who I am, the joy of who I am, the creativity of who I am. And this came through this program. And I began to say, oh, this is what it's all about. And that was about 35. I was about 35 at the time. And I found out I was really good at working with other people. So that's how I segued into my practice.
Cool. So you said you were about 50, you were younger.
About 35, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not 35 anymore.
Well, when you started the program, you started at 35. How long was there? From what you were saying, there was a part where you realized this just wasn't it. Was that at 35 when you realized it wasn't it, or that was when did that happen before?
Yeah, it happened before. Inside of me, everything, my really wonderful lifestyle, living the dream, started unraveling about 4 or 5 years before that, when I had my second child, and I was starting to get very restless, and things just didn't, I call it blow my skirt up anymore. I'm from the South, so that's one of my sayings.
That's cool. I like it.
Yeah. And, I was restless, and I was like, this is not it. And, then my marriage started falling apart, and his company went into bankruptcy. Those were all 2x4s of life. And that's when, and it was 35 that I found this program. So, there were about 3 or 4 years in there that I was kind of struggling for sure.
What do you think drew you to that program? Like, was there like one thing that like maybe you got a download? I call them downloads that really like was a hit.
Well, it was all based on the heart and the loving of the heart.
Okay.
And I really had not considered my life up until then to be focused on the loving of the heart. Even though I was a loving person, even though I thought I knew what loving was, even though, I was a very heartfelt person, caring, loving, warm, that kind of thing. But when it really started talking about how to live from your heart, what is that really about? And how can one do that? There's all kinds of barriers as we have inside of our life, and all kinds of resistance that we have, and because of our upbringing or how we were raised or the conditioning of our culture, our family, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And all of those started to just crumble inside of me. So not only was the outside crumbling, but the inside was crumbling as well. And I really believe, Callie, that we find what we are looking for when our soul is ready.
I agree
And
10,000%.
it is a soul choice, and the soul will direct you. Will say, come over here and check this out. And you don't even, you're not even conscious of it. And all of a sudden you're in this program and you go, oh my God, this is what I've been looking for all my life. So that's how I feel about that.
Yeah, I love that. And then where did the journey, you started at the program and then the journey led into a private practice?
Well, it was called spiritual psychology and
Okay.
and spiritual science, and we were taught skills, skills that we could use with ourselves. And there was a practice kind of thing that we did in this program where we worked with others, and it was part of the program. It was very didactic, it was very experiential, that kind of thing. And I found out I was really good at it. So when I graduated with my master's, my first master's, I thought, I want to work with people. How's
Yeah.
that going to happen? And again, it just unfolded. It just came forward organically. And I found myself having a few people, in a private practice. And of course, that was 35 years ago. So
So beautiful.
it's definitely grown and morphed and gone in all kinds of directions since then. And so I opened what we would call a traditional counseling practice with
Okay.
a spiritual focus. And I don't do that anymore, but that's where I started.
Very nice. So we did say at the beginning that you are an author and you wrote
Two books.
two books.
Hmm.
But I wanted to talk specifically about Make Your Life a Heaven, if that was
Yes,
okay with you.
absolutely.
Can you tell me a little bit about it or a lot about
Sure.
it? I'll listen to all of it.
Okay, so first of all, when I say heaven, I am not talking about a destination. It is not a religious book.
Okay.
I am talking about the place inside of ourself that is heaven.
I
I'm
love
talking
that.
about an inner place inside. Usually it has a lot to do with the heart. And again, when I say heart, I'm not talking about the personal heart. I'm talking about the spiritual heart. I'm really talking about who we are, because we are all loving and we all carry heaven within us. And so I began to discover in my own journey of working with others, really, that thing about, we teach what we most need to learn.
Absolutely.
This began to blossom inside of me, emerge inside of me. And I just thought, we can make our life a heaven or we can make it a hell. And I had done both. It's like, and my clients were, making their life a
Wow.
hell. And it was like, oh, come on, honey, let's go do something else here. So I
Yeah.
started teaching how to release. One of the images I love to use, Kelly, is a overstuffed closet. You can visualize that where everything's kind of falling out. There's too much in that closet. Well, the heaven is in the back of the closet because we've pushed it all the way back with all the clutter, all the disappointments and the fears and the hurts and the wounds and all of that, the conditioning and the beliefs, the judgments. It's all that clutter. So we want to release all the clutter so we really can be who we truly are. So really making your life a heaven is clearing everything you're not so that you can be who you are.
I love that. And I mean, I don't know if maybe we should let people read the book, but do you have like some takeaways, like some steps that people can? I want them to read the book, but maybe just a few little takeaways.
Sure, sure.
How do you do that?
Yeah. Well, okay. So I'll walk you a little bit through the book
Okay.
briefly with just kind of dipping into it. The book, by the way, I wrote the book in 2002. So by then I had been working with people for 12 years and I decided I had something to say. because I kept repeating myself over and over and over. Everybody that came to me, it's like, okay, let's start here and then we'll work through it. So the first thing that I usually love to do with people is having them visualize what their heaven is. Now, most of us will go to the things in the world, which is just fine. The big house or the car or the relationship or the bank account or the health or the vacations or whatever it is. And that's wonderful. So what I do is I take those and I say, okay, if you had this, what's your experience? If you had this, what is that fulfilling inside of you? What is the quality of this? And if you put all those together, that's your heaven. And usually heaven has something to do with joy. It has something to do with loving. It has something to do with courage, strength, impeccability. It has something to do with compassion. Those are very common, but there's a reason that they're common, because when we really strip away the materiality of what we want in our heaven, nothing wrong with that. That's the experience we want. We want that wholeness, which is what your podcast is all about. We
100%.
want that wholeness. We want to feel the belonging. We want to feel like, we belong. We have a place. We can be seen and heard and valued for who we are. So I start there. And then we go from there to, okay, well, if that's your heaven, where are you now? And, most people just go, oh, well, I'm not there. I'm not in touch with that. And I don't exactly know how to get there. So my first big teaching that I work with people is you don't need fixing, you need loving. You
That's
don't need
beautiful.
fixing, you need loving, because most of us feel like we need to be fixed.
I did
And
for a very long time
yeah,
that I needed to be fixed.
yeah.
And I was trying so hard to fix something and I couldn't figure out what it was, but I just felt I needed to fix something.
hmm
And even still, sometimes I think I need to fix something. So I'm going to look at it more like that. I love that.
Yeah, well, we think, oh, there, must be something wrong and it must be me. And so I have to fix it. And so who's going to tell me how to fix it? And it's like, no, 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 you need to be loving. So
Yeah.
I teach a series of what I call self-mastery tools, where we start with loving ourselves, observation, compassion,
Yeah.
acceptance, forgiveness. See, all of those begin to create let's say, a reservoir of loving inside ourselves. Maybe not at first, because I've taught this for many, many years, and people go, well, it didn't, it's not doing anything yet. And I said, let's give it time here.
It
Let's give
takes
it time.
time.
How many years did you create this clutter? So we're going to give it a little time to clear it. Because when we really truly accept who we are, and in our circumstances, our feelings, our thoughts, accept means no more judging, no more judging. And we have compassion for parts of ourselves that are still maybe hurt from whatever in our life, or feeling a lack because we were judged severely or punished for this or that, or don't feel like we're valuable because our family didn't think so, or whatever. It's like those parts need our compassion. So when we begin to be able to separate parts out and say, oh, okay, this is a part of me. This is not me. I'm heaven. I'm that joy, that loving, but this is a part of me that doesn't get it yet. It's still
Yeah.
very, very much stuck in whatever it's stuck in. So let me bring my compassion to it. That's the loving. So it's a process. And sometimes, it could take months. And quite honestly, it can take years. And not
Yeah.
like maybe the let's say, the hard work right at first. Because I had a client tell me lately, she said, am I going to have to do this the rest of my life? And I said, till your last breath.
Yeah.
And it's, what else are you going to do? I mean, what we really are doing is freeing ourselves up to be who we are in the world and to live what I call the divine blueprint, which has more to do with my second book, which is all about calling. Because until we really know who we are and live who we are and claim who we are, that's the freedom, that's the liberation.
Yeah.
And no matter what comes at us, we can ride through it. And my second key that I like to work with is wake up from the knock at the door. In other words, the 2x4s that hit us from out of the blue, it's a wake up call. It's like, hello, you are not on the right path here. It's not the path you signed up for when you came in this lifetime as a soul. And I got that message really clearly when I was in the middle of all my upheaval, my destruction. Everything was crumbling around inside, around me. I got the message that this is a wake up call. Of course, did I pay any attention to that?
That's what
No,
I was gonna say. I don't mean to interrupt you, but so
I know. It's like,
the
go
two by
ahead.
fours are like signs,
Yeah,
basically, when you're okay. And
yeah,
then I love that visualization. And then I was also gonna agree with you is that a lot of times, and I know for me, I had, you see a sign, you ask for a sign, and you literally see the sign right in front of you, but do you actually absorb the sign?
yeah, exactly. Do you ignore it? Do you distract yourself? Do you
Yes.
deny it? Yes, usually the first time around. So then the two by
Or the
four has to
second,
be a
third,
little
fourth.
right. Then the next two by four has to be a little bit more. Well, we're going to really get your attention here,
Yeah.
kind of thing. Yeah, because the life I was living, even though I was living a dream life, most people would say that it wasn't my truth. It wasn't who I am, which is the next key that I work with. Okay, now that we've started to really clear some of the clutter out of the way and you've seen little glimpses and you start to experience a little bit more joy bubble up inside or your heart get really more warm with loving, let's get to know your true self.
Yeah.
And this is, again, another process. The true self of you, not the false self, the true self. So I teach what I call building the wisdom bridge between our human nature and our divine nature. We have two natures. We all know this, but I talk about them this way. The human nature is everything we know, our ego personality, our gut, our knee-jerk reactions, our gut reactions, our conditioning, our fears of safety and security. That's all the human nature. Bless it because it's our teacher. But the divine nature is not like that. The divine nature, lives in joy and growth and expansion and revelation. The divine nature came in to learn and learn from experiences. So when, oh, let's just take an example. When the breakup comes, whatever, it's like, the soul, the divine nature goes, oh, we're going to learn some things here. And of course, the human nature is, doing its thing,
Crushed. Yeah.
yes, crushed and, oh, I ruined my life and I can't live without him or her or
Yeah.
whatever it is. But the divine nature is going, hey, we're going to learn some things here. So and the more that we begin to build the bridge between them, the more that we can dance. I like to call it the dance, a dancing between the two. And so when the human nature goes into its reaction, then we can say, oh, wait a minute, I have a choice here. And we can go over to divine nature and start working our tools of acceptance and compassion and forgiveness. And then start seeing the learning and the lesson, that thing. Well, if it doesn't, kill you, it makes you stronger. I mean, that's really, there's a lot of wisdom in that.
Yeah.
And in the early years, Callie, in my 30s and 40s, like everyone else, the lessons that came my way were formidable, you know?
Yeah.
It's formidable. It's like, whoa, I can't believe this is a lesson for me. Are you sure? I mean, thank you, but I don't need any more lessons. It's like, well, yeah, you
Exactly.
do. Yeah,
Yeah.
you do. But when we get older, because I am older than that, then we go, oh, okay, all right, I'm in this boat on the river. I don't know if you've ever been river rafting, but I'm on
Yeah.
this boat in the river. And when we come to the rapids, it's like, hold on and, buckle up and we'll get to the other side of this. And knowing how to ride those waves is what all of this is about.
So would you say that there is lessons in the book and in life that everything has a reason behind
Mhm.
it. Because that's
Yeah.
kind of how I live, is that
Yeah.
everything, I know everyone says everything happens for a reason, but I really do truly believe that that does happen for a
Yeah.
reason.
It
Everything
does.
happens for a reason. And it's happening for me and not
Not
to me.
against you. Not against
Yes, not against you. I even love that.
you. Mhm.
It's happening for me, like, the breakup or whatever it is, or
Mhm.
a car accident or anything. In the
Mhm.
moment, you can be like, oh, you can either, I think there's two, which was the question I was going to ask you. There's two ways to think: love or fear.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I try my best to always go with the loving thought, but I'm not going to say that it always works.
Oh, no. No, and see that one of the things I want to say about this is there is something called a spiritual bypass. And I don't know if you've ever heard of this, or
Yes.
it's in your you know, in your realm of experience, but we would need to be very authentic with our feelings, but we don't have to stay there. When I teach this stuff, it's like, people will come into my office and they'll be very upset about something. Well, I don't want to say to them, well, this is really a lesson and, blah, blah, blah. No, no, no,
Of
no.
course.
We are with the feelings, we are with the emotions, but we want to accept them and have compassion for them. And usually, right next to a feeling, a strong feeling, is a judgment. And that's what you want to look at. Oh, what am I judging here? I'm judging myself. I'm judging them. I'm judging the situation. I'm judging God. I'm judging whatever. It's like, oh, this is what's compounding my hurt or my disappointment. I'm in judgment. So, or shame or blame. And so
Yeah.
that's where the self-forgiveness comes in, where we say, oh, I want to forgive myself for judging. And many times people think that forgiveness is for somebody else. Oh, I must forgive you. Well, that can come later. That's not what I say we need to start with. We need to forgive ourselves, because we are
Yeah.
the ones who are judging ourselves. And then if it is appropriate, if we come to that and we can forgive the other, wonderful. It's just more icing on the cake, if you
Yeah.
will. And believe me, I know, I worked for almost 20 years as a counseling practice and worked with some pretty gnarly situations for
Yeah.
people. So I know what the human nature can do.
Yeah.
And there's nothing new under the sun. Nothing. I work now in Bulgaria, and a
Oh,
friend asked,
wow.
yeah, and a friend asked me, well, is it different working with people in Bulgaria? And I said, no.
Oh, no. I mean, everyone
No,
has this, it's
the
all
same
different
things.
everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
the
all the
same
same
things.
everywhere.
It's not
And
any different,
and
you
I feel
know?
like it all breaks down to the choice again: love, fear, judgmental thought, loving thought, whatever. But
Mm.
um, yeah, everyone's not pretty similar. I mean, we're all very
Very.
different, but we're all very similar in a lot of ways.
That's right. That's right. Well, and the journey out of the way out is, uh, you know, it's the same journey out of the hell, out of whatever place we are
Yeah.
stuck in. It's the same journey. It can be lots of different words for it, lots of different paths out, but they all lead to the same place, and that is to one's self.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So, a note I wrote down was judging and expectation. So for me, I know I struggle because I judge others based on the expectation I had of them. I expect them to be a certain, not always, but this is a thing that I notice when I'm leading with a judging thought over a loving thought.
Mhm.
Um, that I expected them to do something, or I expected them to be a certain way, and then I get upset with
You're disappointed.
the situation. I get disappointed. Yeah, I get upset with the situation. Instead of leading with like a loving thought and an understanding thought and a compassionate thought for them and for myself. So do you think that's kind of like connected, the judgment and the expectation?
Mhm. Yeah, expectation is one of those things that can lead us down a rosy path, and we get to the end of it and we go, oh, this was not what I expected. One of the things that I also teach in a lot with people is be highly invested and unattached.
Okay. Yeah.
be
I like that.
unattached. And, having an expectation for someone else really is an attachment. And we're all attached. I want to say that right up front. There's nobody, I mean, some spiritual practices are really big on, oh, I'm not attached, and I'm like, yeah, huh, right.
Yeah.
You're attached to that body because if, there was a car coming down the street, you'd get out from in front of it because
Yeah.
you don't want to die. So it's like we are all attached. So this is one of those lifelong lessons in learning how to be sovereign in ourselves.
Yeah.
I work a lot with women, and since I've segued into spiritual mentoring and wisdom teaching, I teach a lot about sovereignty. And I think this is one of the big lessons for women.
Can you,
Yeah,
real quick, sorry, before you go, can you give like a short, when you say sovereignty, I don't know if you were getting to that, what you mean by it or not. I just
sure.
want to make sure that the listeners understand what
Yeah,
you're saying, meaning when you say that.
yeah. Belonging only to oneself.
Okay.
And we give our belonging away to all kinds of people and all kinds of situations. And if until we become sovereign, we long to belong to a group, to a person, to a situation, to a circumstance, and we give it away. And it's kind of like, well, if I don't belong to you, then I'm lost. If I don't belong to you, I'm not whole. If I don't belong to this situation, who am I?
Yeah.
I'm empty. It's like, no, 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 no. We belong to ourself. And when we are sovereign in ourself, that makes all the difference as far as relationships go, expectations go, who we want around us, because we want whole people around us, because we're being
So
whole,
true.
and we want others around us to vibrate at that level. And let's talk about vibration for a minute, because I'm big into vibration and energy. And a lot of what I'm talking about here are words, 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 words. But really, it's the vibration, it's the energy that heals. So the
Yeah.
loving, when I say the loving, people say, what are you talking about? It's like, I understand, because until one really feels the vibration and energy of loving, that's just an empty word. It's the same with forgiveness. It's like forgiveness is about clearing. And it's like, what are you talking about? I don't feel anything. Until we really feel the energy, the vibration of forgiveness, it's just an empty word. So along with this, I teach the frequencies and the energy of it. We embody it. We want to have a somatic experience of it. We want to not get out. We want to get out of our head and into our heart and into the vibrational field around us and into the light and the love of who we are, which is always present. And we want to vibrate there. And of course, I'm teaching a lot about raising our vibration, because if we really want to live as a whole healed, I'm going to use your words,
Yeah.
soul being this lifetime, our true self, we need to raise our vibrations. And the planet, I call it the world, full of a lot of lower vibration stuff going on, and we can get sucked into it so easily. So anyway,
I agree.
that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. And this might be off topic, but I just had this kind of come to me, this thought that I wanted to share with you and see what you thought. I believe that, so we're talking about higher vibrations and love and things like that. I believe that gratitude is a loving thought and a loving feeling. And I also believe that gratitude reciprocates. The more grateful you are, the more you have to be grateful for. And I had a whole thought of that, and I just completely lost it. But anyway, gratitude reciprocates. It's a loving thought. And oh, I know where I was going. I knew it would come back. I still have mom brain 6 years later. I had my child 6 years ago, and I still have mom brain, where thoughts will just slip, but they usually come back. But do you believe that I believe it, but I just want to get your perspective of it, is living in a grateful kind of mindset, does that help your vibration? Live in the higher vibration, or
Yes.
more loving vibration? That's
Yes.
what I thought. And I also recognize that when I verbalize it, I write down what I'm grateful for every day. But when I actually
Beautiful.
verbalize it and put it out there, I swear it comes back tenfold.
Mhm.
Like I have so much more to even be grateful for. And I just started doing this recently, but when I verbalize it, it just seems to give me more, even more to be grateful for than when I just write it. I don't know if you've ever experienced anything like that when
Absolutely.
verbalizing it, but I just felt like I needed to share that with you.
Beautiful, beautiful, Callie. Beautiful that you
Thank
do
you.
that. Words are vibrations. I mean, we think words are just, you know, a string of alphabet strung together. No, words are vibrations.
Yeah.
It's, I'm sure you've been around someone who the way they spoke, you just go, ooh, I
Hmm.
want to get to know that person,
Hmm.
or your whole body relax, or you know, and actors are wonderful at this. You know, certain actors have certain vibrations in their voice that people go, wow, you know. So,
Yeah.
no, it's very true. Gratitude is a beautiful higher vibration experience. So good for you.
Thank
Do you
you.
want you want me to finish my keys, or have we
Yeah,
gone?
please finish your keys. No, go.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah. Sorry.
I'll just run through them, and then there's one I want to talk a little bit more.
Yeah,
So
go.
after getting after knowing your true self, then we want to create a safe place within. When we're doing our inner work, we want to be safe. We want to feel safe. A lot of times people say, I don't want to go there. I want to go back into that memory, or I don't want to look at that thing about myself because they don't feel safe. So that's a big part of working with compassion, is feeling safe, creating what I call a compassion place.
Yeah.
That one I want to talk about, well, then it's unmask fear, making new choices. I want to talk about unmasking fear.
Okay.
Because fear is rampant on this planet, and people go into fear and mask fear. And when we mask fear, we don't really get down to the root of what the fear really is. Fear is either hurt or anger. That's
Mm-hmm.
how we mask fear. And this society does this so beautifully.
Mm-hmm.
Look how much anger is on this planet. Yeah. So if we allow ourselves to go, okay, I'm angry, I wonder what maybe is deeper down there. And the other thing about fear is, if I admit to you or admit to myself that I'm in fear, somehow it's a weakness. No, no, fear is very much one of the base motions that can teach us a lot. And there's a part of our, I call it the spiritual anatomy. It's called the basic self. It hangs out right around the belly button area and the gut area. And when
Yeah.
you're afraid, that's where you register your fear. It's right in your gut, right?
Yeah.
So it's like that part needs to be acknowledged, because that part of our, what I call our spiritual anatomy, will assist us in working through the fear and acknowledging it. Because what's below the fear? An ocean of love and mercy. So we have anger on the surface, kind of like the ocean, and that, you know, it can be calm or it can really start, you know, with lots of waves and
Yeah.
things. So what I say is, when we've got anger, we need to dive down. It's like, what? Let's hit the fear. What is the fear? And we can
Yeah.
discover that. And then when we work through the fear with self-compassion, we go into the ocean of love and mercy, which is basically a heaven.
I love that. That's beautiful. That's so beautiful. Um, it's so true, and that we lead with so much fear in
Mhm.
this world,
Mhm.
and that it's sometimes, in my perspective, it's easier to lead with fear over love sometimes because it's a learned behavior. But I imagine that can change over time. That it's easier to lead into love.
Yes, and when we say love, you know, it's not we don't hang a sign on our body, you
Mhm.
know, ourselves, and go, okay, I'm love. Whatever, you know, whatever you need from me, I'm here. No, 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 no.
Yeah.
You know, love is the spiritual love. It's knowing that you are loving. But at the same time, can you have fear? Absolutely. This is not an either or. It is all of it. We are multidimensional. So it is like, yes, I can know that I am loving, and at the same time, something just happened to me that really scared me. It could be anything, and so I need to work with my fear and have compassion for her or him or it or however we see that, so that it knows it's safe.
Yeah.
These kinds of basic responses of our human nature, in my opinion, don't ever go away fully.
Yeah.
But the more that we work with them, the more we know how to work with them. And they don't swamp us anymore. They don't take us over. They don't put us into bed for 3 days or have us, go eat everything in the refrigerator or however we used to, respond to it. It's like
Cope. Yeah.
we don't do that anymore. We go, no, no, no. I know how to work with this in a positive way from me, a loving way from me. Remember, you don't need fixing, you need loving. So we go back to the loving of who we are. So then we can make a new choice. And that's a whole choice is big, big, big.
Yeah.
Because most people don't know they have a choice. And you do. You always have a choice.
Everybody does, and it's our choice to make. I believe. But so people can learn this in your book.
Yes.
Again, it's Make Your Life a Heaven.
Yes.
Can they work with you as well? Are you taking
Sure.
on clients, or I don't know what you call them. Do you call them clients when
Yeah,
you
I
work
call
with
it
people?
clients.
Okay,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure because I wasn't sure if it was a client or patient or how you put that wording out there, but
Yeah, no, I'm not a patient client.
okay.
What I usually do if someone wants to work with me is I like to, do a kind of like, a discovery call. Let me find out what's going on for you.
Yeah.
Let me see if I'm a really good match for you. A lot of times I have a lot of recordings, a lot of YouTube, got a lot of stuff on it.
Okay.
And I have a membership site, it's got a lot of stuff on it. So sometimes I'll send people to a couple of recordings and I'll say, go watch this and see what you think. Because the way that I work is a very specific way, and people really have to be ready to do the deep work. I don't,
Yeah.
we don't stay on the surface. We dive deep. And so I like to introduce people to the way that I work. And the other thing I work a lot with is dreams. I'm a big believer that the higher self will give us all kinds of answers, if you will, not
Yeah.
am I going to win the lottery, but how do I solve this problem? How do I move past this challenge? That if we ask, we receive. So I work a lot with dreams. So there's a lot that I do, and I do work online. That's the way the world is now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I also work in person. If you'd like to come to me. And so, yeah, I do work with people. But the book
Okay.
is really full of a lot of stories of people that I worked with and my own story, examples. It's got exercises in it. And all of the keys that I just mentioned are all in the back of the book. I call them the keys to make your life a heaven, because I sort of teased out, the ones that I felt like were, because there's a lot in the book.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So kind of more of like a quick guide.
Yeah,
for
like a
you
quick,
to
like a
maybe
Cliff
carry
Notes,
around.
like a
Yeah.
Cliff
Okay.
Notes. But I would, if you read the book and you really want to get in touch with me, then yeah, you can go to my website. It's RebeccaESkeele.com. You can find me on Facebook. You can message me on Facebook. Yeah.
And then all that is Rebecca Skeele on Facebook and Instagram, where people can find you.
Not on Instagram. I'm not big on Instagram. I need an
Okay.
18-year-old to tell me how to do Instagram.
Okay.
I'm not quite there yet. But yes, LinkedIn, Facebook, and then my website. And it's Rebecca E. Skeele, Skeele.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I looked you up on Instagram, so I wasn't
Oh, okay.
sure if that was a way you like to find people to find you or not. So
Not usually.
and
Yeah.
when I let people know where to find you, I want to make sure I know where to let them find you. So always at the end, I ask if there's anything that I should have asked you that I didn't ask you. Is there anything that I should have asked that I didn't ask?
I thought your questions were really very, very spot on. And I love that you shared your own experience. Thank you.
No, thank
Because it's always wonderful to, like you said, have a dialogue about this. anything that you should have asked me.
Anything that you want, any like burning desires that you want people to know about the book, about you, about anything? If not, it's okay. If not, I just like to ask that just to make sure I covered everything.
I guess what I would say, and this is really what my teaching now is all about, and my mentoring is all about, is that we are all souls, and we were born this lifetime to awaken to that. And that's the most important thing, and that is through the loving of who we are. And I hope whatever path or whatever place your listeners are living in or living from, that they are deciding when, like I said, when that's going to happen for them. And
Yeah.
to me, it's a soul choice. There's no hurry, there's no urgency. When the soul is ready, you will know.
Yeah, it's ready. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really enjoyed learning from you.
Thank you, Callie. I love being here.
Yeah, this was super helpful for me. And I know it's going to be helpful for the listeners too. So yeah, thank you again. And thank you all for joining us for another episode of Healing Whole, the podcast. We will check you out next time.